Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Wednesday, June the 4th, 2025. And I can feel it in the air this morning. It's very chilly and overcast, and I think we're going to get a bit of a downpour today. Sort of going in and out of the clouds, but you can just feel it in the air. I don't mind it though, if I'm being honest. That's one of the things I love about living where we do in Victoria. This is one good thing about living in Victoria, in my opinion, and probably the same as South Australia, Tassie, all the southern states. But I love the 4 seasons. I love when it actually gets cold. I love it when it's hot in the summer, but then I also love it in the winter. Put the fire on, snuggle up in bed, all that sort of stuff. Go on these nice early morning brisk walks. But just my preferences anyway. All right, on to the boxing. And on this day, got a couple to get through, a couple of big ones featuring Aussies, actually. 1971, Cuba's Jose Napoles defended his world welterweight title with a knockout of American Billy Backus in the 4th round. That was in Los Angeles, California. 1990, Humberto Chiquita Gonzalez, great little fighter, knocked out Luis Monzotti in the 3rd round to defend his world light flyweight title. That was in Inglewood, California. 2007, Japanese fighters Eagle Kawawa defeated Akira Yagishi, I think it is, for the WBC strawweight title. Didn't think they still had that one, actually. 2011, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Yes, he was a world champion. He was crowned the WBC champion middleweight with a win over Germany's Sebastian Jovic. That was in Los Angeles as well. 2011 as well, Carl Froch defeated Glenn Johnson on points in Atlantic City, New Jersey for the world super middleweight title. 2016, I remember this one, Francisco Vargas and Orlando Salido drew in Carson, California. That would have been the StubHub Center. That was for the world 130-pound title. 2022, Steve Fulton defended his WBC super bantamweight title with a win over Daniel Roman on points in Minneapolis, Minnesota. But the other fights that actually took place on this day featuring Aussies was, well, first one was back in 2005, and I think we all remember this one. Costa Tszyu travelled to Manchester, England to fight Ricky Hatton and was stopped, was it the 11th round, in between rounds? I think we can all remember watching that fight. Not a pleasant experience for all us Aussie fans. I think we sort of accepted the Vince Phillips fight as one of those fights where, you know, he was just caught napping a little bit. I suppose you could almost compare it to what happened with Tim last year, but of course Costa was the undisputed champion? I don't think he was. I think he was just the IBF champion. But it was more of a shock, sort of wake-up call for Costa. He got careless in that fight. Probably showed a few flaws in Costa's armour with the fact that he was susceptible or open to those overhand rights, and Vince Phillips just kept throwing them, didn't he? And Costa, his just resilience just sort of wore down over the fight, and he was stopped by those right hands. But as I said, it was like one of those shock horror things, and a lot of fighters, elite fighters, will have one of those in their career. They'll have an upset loss, and they'll most likely avenge them. Costa didn't get the chance to do that, but the Ricky Hatton fight was different. You know, we knew he was at the end of his career, the tail end. And I think the fight, the way it went, and really I think in his prime, Costa would have handled Ricky Hatton with no problems, in my opinion. I think Ricky Hatton was custom made, although Ricky Hatton did fight a smart fight by getting on Costa's chest the whole fight, didn't let him get range, get distance, and time him for those punches that he threw. So, but I think we all sort of realised that was probably the end of an era when Ricky Hatton beat Costa Tszyu that night, and the way he did it, I mean, he really, well, I suppose you could say he battered Costa for that fight, and and really showed I suppose, the age difference and the generational difference. But I still maintain that I think Costa would have beaten him, 6 or 7 years earlier. But it is what it is. There's a lot of hearsay, I suppose, isn't it? A lot of could have, would have, should have, all that sort of stuff. But it was a sad day. I remember watching it. What was it? Yeah, 2005. So 20 years ago. Not a great night, and the sight of Johnny Lewis sort of waving it off and Costa slumped in his corner, not good. But we all remember Costa as a legend, and he's never really officially retired. He's always sort of kept us guessing. I think the odds are he's not coming back now. 20 years on, what is he? Probably mid to late 50s now. So, but what a great career that he had, Costa Tszyu. The other big fight of Aussie significance today is the day that George Kambosos defended his world lightweight title for the first and only time against Devin Haney. That was the first fight at the Marvel Stadium in Melbourne. What they get there, about 42,000 people. That's a great crowd for Melbourne. They did the rematch, of course, later in the year. Couldn't really come close to that. And what they get about, I think they got about 8,000 or 9,000, I think, from memory, which is still not a bad crowd, but that was at the Tennis Centre. I remember the days, Jeff Fenny could get 15,000 there, though. It was just amazing. But that's a great feat, though, to get that amount of people there. And that just goes to show I suppose, the appeal of George at the time. Melbourne, it was very smart to put it here, by the way, because Melbourne, I think they reckon, what do they say, outside of Athens, it's the biggest Greek population in the world or something. I'm not sure. I think that's what someone said. But George coming to Melbourne, and I remember all the Greek fans at the fights, probably all the same ones that go to the tennis and all that sort of stuff. And that first fight was disappointing, though, wasn't it? It was a big build-up. I was actually overseas watching it. I was in New York at the time. And I remember, what was it here? I'm assuming it would have been about $70 to watch on pay-per-view. It was a big deal over here as being a pay-per-view. And I remember just watching it in New York, just on free-to-air TV over there. It was on, what was it? It was ESPN Plus or something it was called. And it was actually, we missed the prelim fights to it because they had and I think they only had Jason's fight, maybe. Jason Maloney fought on the undercard. I think they might have had his fight on there. But that's the only fight they had because they were late getting there from a college baseball game or something. But that's the significance it had over there. But geez, it was massive here, wasn't it? 42,000 people, and credit to George and the promoters and everyone. They're disappointing, of course, from the fight's point of view. George was, I suppose it's easy to say he was just outclassed, but I'm not sure that was necessarily the case. I just think he didn't fight a great fight. He just allowed Devin to run and hold, and like a lot of his opponents have done. The only one, obviously, that hasn't done that is Ryan Garcia, who's tried to disrupt his rhythm by almost countering Devin, if that makes sense. So Devin's the classic counterpuncher where he'll obviously wait for you and he'll move, he'll hold, he'll run, if that's what you want to call it, and just get to a decision that way. But that night against Garcia, Ryan Garcia would actually time Haney, as he's coming in and throw that left hook, and obviously had success. But George that night just could not, or that day, George just could not pull the trigger. Haney was just too quick, too slick. And I just don't think George had the same fire in the belly that he had for Lopez. And you've got to remember, when he fought Lopez, there was no real, he had to turn up to the press conferences and all that, didn't he, and do all that sort of stuff. But apart from that, he was left alone. He was outside of Australia. He just had to turn up and be George. When he was having that first fight with Haney on this day, he was sort of pretty much expected to carry the whole thing. And not only did he have to do his usual press conference, he really had to promote it up. He did so many interviews, and he was just constantly promoting the fight up to the point where he actually missed weight, if you can remember that, and had to come back and make it at the second attempt. And I just think all that, the pressure, and this is why I'm not a big one for having your fights here in Australia. I know people like Tim Tszyu have probably bucked the trend, and they've been great here in Australia, but most of the time, Tim doesn't have to do a lot, but on that particular, it just sells itself almost. But I remember that, but that George, as I said, had to pretty much carry the whole show. But it was a big day for Aussie boxing, wasn't it? 42,000 at Marvel Stadium. And even the Lomachenko fight, last year, fantastic crowd there as well. So he can draw, can George Kambosos. We all talk about Tim being the biggest draw in Australia, but not many fighters apart from Tim can draw that type of crowd. So that is what happened on this day in 2022. I was actually at the rematch too, by the way. A little bit better from George, but still the same result. Just, as they say, styles make fights, and Devin Haney's style was just not for George. So let's hope he can fix that against Hitchens, because he's going to need to, because it's going to be a similar type of fight, isn't it? So now, speaking of Devin Haney, it was on and now it's off. Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez was on. It was announced yesterday, officially announced too, not just, here we go. Well, when I say officially announced, I suppose there was no press conference or anything, was there? That's probably what makes it official, but it was announced that August 16th in Saudi Arabia that Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney would fight. Everyone got excited about it. And yes, I was pretty excited about it. I thought it'd be, I think it would be a really, really good fight. I think the build-up would be great. I think we've got two very, very good fighters at the top of their game against each other. I'm not sure what the fight would actually be like, but then look, I'm sure back in the day when, I don't know, when Sugar Ray fought Thomas Hearns, a lot of people might have thought that mightn't have been an exciting fight either, and look at the fight that it was. Even Hagler Hearns, look at the fight that was, and a lot of people mightn't have thought that might have turned out that way as well, because people thought that maybe Tommy Hearns might have sort of boxed a little bit more going up to middleweight, and Marvin Hagler was not necessarily that real aggressive type of fighter, and then the worlds collided and we had one of the best fights ever, and one of the best, especially one of the first rounds. So I'm not just sort of going to write it off, although having said that, Devin Haney's not exactly Thomas Hearns, is he? Or Sugar Ray Leonard. You get the impression that it could be a snore fest, but you just don't know. You don't know. I for one, I certainly don't want to see what happened in Times Square. That's what I don't want. But I think it could possibly, if it did happen, it still might come off, by the way, because maybe Teofimo's just spat the chewy and will come back to the table in the next sort of day or so. But I think it would be such a tactically good fight. You've got, like, both of these guys are very, very good fighters. And Devin Haney, I know he's sort of turned into that sort of runner, but he's still a good boxer. Very, very skilled. And Teofimo Lopez, well, he's got all the skills in the world, doesn't he? So, yeah, I think it could be a really, really good fight. A really good fight. It would also complete it when you think about what would you call it when you got four fighters have all fought each other? You've got George Kambosos, Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez, and Vasily Lomachenko. All four of them have all fought each other at different times, which is another little side sort of stat, I suppose. But look, when I saw the fight, I thought, well, I'm not sure it'll be exciting, but I was like, yes, these are the fights we need to get made. On top of, Stevenson and Zapata getting made, and some good fights getting made out there. So let's hope it can come together. I don't know the exact reasoning why the fight hasn't sort of made it to the starting line, because it was announced and then a day later it's unannounced. Well, not even a day later, so I'm not exactly sure what has happened there, but let's hope it can come together. Now, one fight fights that have come together, of course, is Manny and Barrios and Zhu versus Fundora 2. That now, the press conference is this morning, the official press conference. Now, I said the other day I missed it because I was told the official press conference would be yesterday Australian time, which makes sense because it's yesterday American time. It's the 3rd still over there. And I was told that was when the press conference was going to be. And of course, didn't even notice I did a sort of semi-press conference the other day, but it was more of just an announcement, I suppose. But today, I was on about an hour ago, so I haven't had a chance to watch it in full yet. But the official press conference is taking place this morning. Tickets are also on sale this morning, and I think they range, I haven't had a good chance to have a look through it yet, from about $500 US upwards. So not overly cheap, but this is what it costs to get to the MGM, so, or to a big fight like this. So Once I get the ticket details, I'll let everyone know if people want to go. I'm sure everyone that does want to go has already been on the AXS website this morning, or the MGM site. But looking forward to the getting back to the MGM. I read an article the other day about it, and the legacy of the MGM and how it's sort of been in decline, and how this is hopefully going to get it back. Because at one stage, it was all the big fights were at the MGM, probably from the year, probably 2006, 2007, maybe a little bit earlier, right through until, I suppose, when the T-Mobile opened in 2016. Has been a few fights since then, but that was when it was the fight, the glory days. I mean, Tyson, and that's where Foreman and what's his name? Mental blank there. Michael Moorer. Mental blank there. Yeah, the Ford, and all the Mayweathers and Pacquiao's and De La Hoyas, and I remember Marco Antonio Barrera fought Robbie Peden there. I mean, I was there when Jeff Horn fought Terence Crawford. I mean, such good memories there. I mean, it's just impossible to go back through all the fights there. But over the years, it's gotten less and less and less. I used to do sort of 8, 9 shows a year. Then it was dwindled down, had a little bit of a brief resurgence, and now it's only sort of been sort of 1, 2 a year or something like that. But some of my best memories of coming over to the States, or going over to the States, have been at the MGM Grand. And I think I like it a lot better than the T-Mobile Arena. I don't know what it is, because the T-Mobile is a great arena, but maybe it's just a little bit too new. Maybe it's just got to grow its aura and status, I suppose. I mean, it is 9 years old now since I've been there, and I was there for the first fight actually between Canelo and Amir Khan, which was great. But to go into the MGM, it's just amazing. It really is. My first actually big fight was Pacquiao and Hatton at the MGM Grand. And then most of the fights after that have been, probably about 90, well, I won't say that many, probably 75% of the fights I've been to at the MGM Grand. It's such a great location. I can understand why they probably wanted to get the fights out of there, because probably not, because they have concerts and all that there as well, but it's not a great stadium to get out of. You've got to go through the casino, and you might have 15,000, 16,000 people coming out of there, and just a bottleneck. And I think I've said on here before where it was almost part of a stampede because someone thought they heard a gunshot and everyone just scattered, and it was really, really dangerous. Actually, I was there when Mayweather and Maidana, after that fight, and the Argentinian fans rioted and smashed everything. I was there for that. It can get pretty dangerous. It's probably one thing coming out of a concert where everyone's happy and joyful and everything else, but after a fight, when emotions are running high, it can get a bit volatile. And those 2 times were pretty scary, actually. Actually, the third time, the second was the Maidana fight when I was there with my wife Tara, and we were actually in the stadium though, not outside. And again, someone thought they heard a gunshot and they all come pouring back into the arena. But overall, look, inside it is just, there's not a bad seat in the house. It's just an awesome fighting or viewing experience. It really is. So looking forward to getting back there, because I don't think I've been there since what might have been actually the Horn Crawford fight. All the big fights I've been to since then have all been at T-Mobile. So yeah, looking forward to getting back there in July. All right, a couple more things. Parker Chisora 3. Do we really want it? I don't think so. But that's what they're talking about for the Usyk and Dubois undercard. Look, I sort of get it. They want to keep Parker in the limelight, keep him busy, keep him happy, put him on the card as a bit of a favour, and then he'll get the winner most likely. So yeah, I'm not against it, although he has beaten him twice already. It's going to be Chisora's 50th fight. Maybe he wants a more winnable fight. And the other thing is, he is the IBF mandatory challenger. So maybe he doesn't want a risky fight. He just wants to wait his turn, and hopefully maybe the IBF strip Usyk and he gets a shot at the IBF belt. I don't know. But that's what they're talking about at the moment. Either way, it looks like Joseph Parker will be on that card, which is good. I think it's the least they can do for him. Moses Otama is apparently on the card as well. No opponent just yet. But it's already starting to look stacked, isn't it? Joseph Parker and Moses Otama are on there. So it should be a ripper card, that one. When is it? That's July 19th as well, isn't it? So, which is what a weekend of boxing that is. Now, just one last thing. Badou Jack has been ordered to fight Noel Mikaelian again. They fought in February this year. apparently it was a controversial fight. I didn't really think it was that controversial. I thought it was close. I thought Badu Jack just won a close fight, but not in the eyes of Michelanian. I know I probably haven't pronounced that right, by the way, but yeah, they launched a protest because of the result, and the WBC have ordered a rematch. I'm not sure when that will actually take place, but so what does that do for Jai now? We've got Zerto talking about fighting either Jake Paul or Benavides, and we've got Badu Jack now tied up with this next fight, which will probably be in, I don't know, 4 or 5 months' time. So it looks like Jai's going to have to wait, unfortunately. So he won't be happy, you would think. He'll get past Squire. You would probably, I'm expecting that pretty easily, to be honest. And then he's going to have another fight end of the year against another ranked challenger. So, and we'll have to wait until 2026 to get his opportunity to unify by the looks of things now. So we will see. But anyway, so yeah, and again, big fight week this weekend. We'll cover that more later in the week. But make sure you get that pay-per-view. $50, support Tasman Fighters and what they're trying to do. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. Have a great Wednesday, and we'll catch you tomorrow.